Oh, so this morning we are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to do a short form Ashtanga course. So this is a series that has been developed. It's one of the original vinyasa series. So it's about 150 years old. And it's meant to warm up all of the large muscle groups in your body. So we're going to be doing some sun salutations A and B to start warming us up. Then we'll move into a standing series where we're going to do some of the postures you're very familiar with, but in a very set sequence. We'll do a seated or primary series, and then we'll kind of wrap some things up. So that is what our plan is for the morning. If you do not have two blocks, you will probably want blocks. If you appreciate or enjoy the support of sitting on a blanket for that lift for your hips for our primary series, you could grab a blanket. And if a strap is useful for you, you're always welcome to have that as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, two things to keep in mind. If it hurts, you don't do it. You can do any variation, you can do something completely different, but this is not meant to be physically painful. And if you can't breathe, you also need to back out if you're having any issues with breathing. So our breath is very important in all of our yoga practices. So keep in mind that if you can't breathe, you need to do something different as well. So that might just be backing out of the position a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed this practice and we'll get started. So come to the front of your mat and get yourself set up in a strong mountain position. In Ashtanga, traditionally, our toes are together with our heels just slightly apart. However, if you prefer to have your feet about hip width apart, that is also totally fine. So nice tall mountain position, shoulder blades pulled together, tall spine, chin tucked. Take a couple of breaths to get nice and grounded. Tune into how your body is feeling today and what you might need to do to take care of yourself during this practice. There's also a couple of moments where you might set an intention. So if you have anything that helps you stay present in your practice, set that intention now. We'll take one more full breath in here. And nice long exhale out. And then we'll go ahead and get started with Sun A. So on your inhale, lift your arms up overhead. Palms come together and then swan dive forward. So flat back as long as you can and then round down. Fingertips on the floor or your shins, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold down. Bend your knees enough to plant your hands. Step your feet back to a plank position. Elbows in close, lower down chest first, no belly flops. And then feel free to flatten your feet so you can find your first back bend. Lower right back down, tuck your toes, push up through table or plank, and back to downward facing dog. From here, we're going to take 5 full breaths. So our downward facing dog is kind of our resting position. You're going to see this come up a lot in our sun salutations. It's our point where we pause and we take full 5 breaths. Take one more here. Stay here for a nice long exhale out. Look up towards your hands. You can walk, step, or hop. I'm going to walk for this first one. Come back to the front of the mat and find that half flat back. And your exhale, fold in. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Arms come out to the side, all the way overhead. Palms come together. Hands come to heart center. Round 2. Release your hands down. Inhale up. And exhale, fold. Halfway lift and lengthen. Plant your hands, step back to plank. And then again, elbows in close, chest comes down first, lower all the way down. Flatten your feet. Find your cobra. Notice my elbows are bent and lower down. Tuck your toes, move through table or push up And then downward facing dog for 5 more breaths. So we're waking the body up. If you want to bend one knee at a time, pedal out the backs of your legs, you're welcome to do that. Also work to sink your chest down nice and low. Look down towards your shins or your knees. One more nice full breath. Stay here as you exhale it out. Look to the front. This time I'm going to hop to the front. And again, land in that half flat back. Fold in. Inhale, sweep your arms all the way overhead. And here we are back at standing. We're going to do one more just like this. Release your hands down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold forward, flat back, and then round. Halfway lift and lengthen. Plant your hands. You can step back or try hopping back to land in plank. Elbows in close, lower down. Flatten your feet, find your cobra. Lower down again, tuck your toes. Make your way to your downward facing dog for your 5 breaths. The resting position here is a great time to practice taking those full breaths. You're also welcome to work with Ujjayi breath if that is a part of your practice, that ocean breath. One more. Stay here, exhale it out. Look up to the front, step or hop, and land in your half flat back. Fold in. Inhale, sweep your arms all the way overhead and back to center. So we're going to move into our sun B. So we're adding on, we will do 2 rounds of this. So this time, as you lower your hands down, sink your knees, lift your arms, and fold. They lift. Plant your hands, step or hop, and lower through. Find your back bend. Come back up to downward facing dog right away. Right foot steps forward, left heel spins down, lift up warrior 1. Exhale, right back down. Right foot steps back to plank, lower down again. Cobra or up dog if you choose. To downward facing dog. Left foot comes forward right away. Inhale as you rise up. Exhale, right back down. Step your left foot back. Move through your vinyasa once again. And we'll meet up in downward facing dog, 5 more breaths. You can see our sun beast steps things up a little bit. Warms you up. Gets everything moving. One more breath. Full exhale out. Look to the front, step, walk, or hop. Half flat back. And fold in. Inhale, sink those hips. Lift up. And back to center. One more just like that. Sink your hips down, fierce. And fold. We lift and lengthen. Plant your hands, step or hop. Back to plank. Lower down. Find your cobra. And then press up to downward facing dog. Right away, right foot forward. Inhale up. And exhale down. Step your right foot back, move through that vinyasa. And left foot. Almost done with our warm up. You should be nice and warm by now. Exhale down. Step back. Your cobra. Lower down. Make your way to downward facing dog. 5 more breaths. This is an excellent time for a child's form if you need a little bit of a break. Full breaths wherever you are. One more. Stay here to exhale it out. Look to the front, step or hop. Half flat back. Fold in. Sink your hips for fierce as you lift your arms overhead. And right back to standing. And congratulations, you've made it through your warm-up. So from here, we're going to step our feet about hip width apart. And then we are going to inhale, lift our arms up. Exhale, we're going to fold. We're going to stay down for 5 breaths. So grab your big toes with your peace fingers. Halfway lift and lengthen through your spine. And then fold in. 5 full breaths. Notice that stretch through the backs of your legs, maybe through your spine. One more breath here. Stay here as you exhale it out. Your inhale, release your toes, lift up halfway. We're going to fold right back down, but this time we're going to put our hands underneath our feet, palms face up. So your toes are right at your wrist crease. So this is actually a wrist release from all of those vinyasas you just did in your warm-up. You might wiggle your toes a little bit. You can bend your knees as much as you need to get your hands flat on the floor. One more full breath. Stay here, exhale it out. Release your bind, bring your hands back to your hips, slight bend in your knee, lift all the way up to standing. Fabulous. We're going to do 4 different things here where we're going to start at the front and we're going to take a big step open to the right. This is going to give us a chance to pivot and do a couple positions on both sides. You may want your blocks for this, so you might notice I have 1 block in the front and 1 in the back, so that whichever way I'm pivoting, I have a block nearby. So from the front, find your nice strong position and then take a big step open. So you'll start with toes pointing towards the long edge of your mat, wrists more or less over your ankles. Pivot your right foot out. We're moving towards triangle. So glide forward and then bring your hand down to the block or the floor. Left arm comes up overhead and keep carving that right hip under. So for this series, it's going to be 5 breaths in each of these positions. When you're ready, look down, inhale, lift all the way up. We're going to pivot our feet to the other side to set up for left. So lead forward and then find your support for your hand. Again, in our official Ashtanga, we're actually going to be grabbing our big toe with our peace finger, but for most people, that is a bit too much. So if in order to keep in correct alignment, you need to use the blocks as I am, please feel free to use those blocks. Next, exhale, look down. Inhale, lift up. Pivot back to the right. We're going to move towards twisted triangle. So step your left foot out a little bit. Spin to bring your left hand down to your right block, outside of your right foot. You can keep your right hand on your hip, or if it's comfortable, lift your right hand up towards the sky. Work to keep both legs as straight as you can. Remember, anything that hurts, you don't do. Excellent. Exhale, look down. Inhale, look up. Pivot all the way back to the left. Readjust your feet. You need that space for your hips to be able to go forward. Right arm comes out, leads forward, and comes down to the block outside of your left foot. Left hand can stay on your hip or lift up for your twist. Couple more breaths. Work to keep those legs straight. And then look down when you're ready. Windmill your arms open, nice open stance. Step to the front. All right, second position with this nice big open stance. Step open wide. This time we're moving to side angle. So turn your toes to the right toes pointed towards the short edge. Deep bend in your front knee. Right elbow can go to the right knee or to the block outside of your foot. Left fingertips stretch overhead. Look up towards your hand. One more breath. Stay here as you exhale it out. Maybe look down. Inhale, lift up. Pivot back to the left. Deep bend in your left knee. Hand comes to the floor or your shin. Right arm stretches overhead. Open your chest towards the ceiling. Sink nice and low in your left knee. Couple more breaths. And then exhale, look down. Inhale, open up. We're gonna move towards twisted side angle on the second step. Back on the right side. So again, you might need a little extra space. So you might hop your left foot out to the side. Palms come together. Deep bend in your right knee. Left elbow to right knee twist. Palms are pressed together. Legs are nice and strong. One more breath. Next exhale, look down. Inhale, pivot. Back to the left, readjust your feet. Deep bend in your left knee. Palms come together, right elbow, left knee twist. Make sure you're breathing. This is an excellent example of if you can't breathe, you need to back out. One more breath. Exhale, look down. Inhale, spin open. Step back to the front of your mat. Doing great. Okay, step open again. Nice wide stance. This time, make sure your toes are pointed towards that long edge because we're going to keep our feet right where they are. Hands come to your hips. Inhale, look up, just a little bit of a back bend. And then exhale, fold forward. For this first one, bring your hands down to the ground in front of your face. Half lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold in. 5 here. See if you can get the weight balanced right between your heels and your toes, right in the middle. Let your head hang down. Maybe even give your head a little nod back and forth. All right, after your 5 breaths, slight bend in your knees, hands come to your hips. Inhale, lift back up. Keep your hands there. Pull your shoulder blades together, elbows come behind you. Inhale, look up for your back bend. This time, fold down, same as before, but keep your hands on your hips, elbows pointed up towards the sky. 5 more breaths. After your 5 breaths, slight bend in your knee, lift all the way up. We have 2 more stances from this big, wide open stance. So this time, bring your arms out to the side, and then interlace your hands back behind you. So your hands are going to be together. If you can get your palms together and straighten your arms, fantastic. If you need to have a little bit of space there, you can. Or this is also a great place for a strap. So once you're ready, slight back bend as you inhale. Exhale, fold forward. Lift your arms over your head, away from your back body as much as is comfortable. Keep pulling your shoulder blades together. One more breath. And then slight bend in your knee. Hands come back to your hips. Lift all the way up. One more. This time, reach those fingertips wide. And then bring your hands to your thighs. Let them slide down your legs. As you fold, grab your big toes with your peace fingers. Halfway lift and lengthen. And then fold in. Elbows come out to the side to help you pull down a little bit deeper. 5 breaths here, just as the others. And when your 5 breaths are done, release your hands back to your hips, slight bend in your knee. Inhale all the way up. Open your arms and step back to the front of your mat. One more. This time we're going to do a smaller step open. So step open, maybe 2/3 of what you did, and then pivot so that we're on the right side, setting up for pyramid. Your hands can stay on your hips. You can interlace your hands, grabbing opposite elbows, or a reverse prayer. So make sure your feet are on train tracks. And then when you're ready, fold forward. Both legs straight. Move your right hip back, left hip forward. And not to hyperextend your legs, but keep them as straight as you can and shoulders nice and level. One more breath. And your next inhale, lift up. Pivot over to the left. Readjust your feet so you have that space. Again, holding opposite elbows or reverse prayer. Fold in when you're ready. Both legs as straight as possible without hyperextending. This time, left hip back, right hip forward. Nice flat chest. You notice I'm not rounding down. Full deep breaths. Let's take 2 more here. And then next inhale, lift up. Open back to the side. Step to the front of the mat. Excellent work. We're going to work on a little bit of standing balances here. So do what you can. Feel free to use a wall. All good. Lots of variations we can do as well. So we're going to start by shifting the weight into our left foot. And then begin to bring your right knee up. And see if you can grab your big toes on your right foot. You can stay right here. If you would like to, you can work to extend your right leg. 5 short breaths. Then we're going to move towards opening to the side. So again, you can do this with a bent knee, absolutely fine. You might lift your left arm up or look over your left. Or you could stay with that bent knee and hold onto your big toe. Bring that back to center. Point your toe, float your leg. Working on those hip flexors that we don't get a lot of use out of. Maybe lift a little higher and then bring it down and shake it out. Balances are not easy stuff. So do what you can. We're working on our balances so we can not fall down when we get older, right? So do what you can. Left side, so shift the weight into your right foot. Pick up your left knee, grab your big toe, and either choose to stay with your knee bent or straighten your leg, whatever works for you. Short breaths here. And then we'll move to opening. Sometimes it's easier for me to bend my knee while I open and then re-straighten. And sometimes balance is just hard. Do what you can. Bring your left knee back in. Float your foot, couple more breaths. And release that down. Good work. All right, step back to the front of your mat. We move through a sun salutation to set us up for Fierce. So again, toes can be together or hip width apart. Inhale up. We won't be holding our down dog in 5 breaths this time. Halfway lift and lengthen. Plant your hands, step or hop back to plank, and lower down. Lift up for cobra, bent elbows. Lower down, tuck your toes. Push up. Downward facing dog, look to the front of your mat. Step or hop. Hop, lift. Fold in. And then sink your hips as you lift your arms. We'll hold here for 5 breaths. This is our Fierce. Make sure you can see your toes. Shift your weight back if you need to. Maybe sink lower. Do what you can. 1 more breath. And then straighten your legs and fold. Moving back through our sun salutation, halfway lift. Plant your hands. Step your feet back to plank. Lower down. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Look to the front, step your right foot forward. Left heel spins down, inhale up, warrior 1. Be here for 5 breaths this time. And we're going to do that little pivoty thing that we did on the other side. So straighten your front leg, pivot all the way to the back of the mat, left side, warrior 1. Think a little lower if you can. Great. Open up warrior 2. Readjust your feet, moving from those train tracks to a tightrope. And then straighten your leg, arms come overhead. Warrior 2, sink it side. Almost done with our standing series. And then frame your foot. Right foot steps back, move through vinyasa. From downward facing dog, step your feet to the middle, cross your ankles, come down to a C and say, oh my goodness, that was a lot of work. So your body should be warmed up. I'm a little warm right now, you might be too, very normal. That's actually what we're hoping for. Grab your blocks, keep them nearby the outside of your hips. We're gonna use those in a little bit. But we'll start by straightening our legs. Hands come down to the floor, just slightly in front of our hips. So we don't want our hands way back here, way up here. We want them right there, kind of hugging your ribs in. Toes pulled back towards your face. All 3 bandhas engaged. This is Dandasana or staff. So in our seated or primary series here, 5 breaths in most of our positions. We will have some vinyasas and some bump ups in between things. When you're ready, start to lead forward with your chest, keep your back flat, and then reach for your toes. If you can, grab your big toes with your peace finger, but keep your back flat. So if you need to back out, please do. If you need to back out to breathe, please do. Elbows might come out to the side to help you fold a little bit more. We lift and lengthen. We're going to do one more, maybe a little deeper. Maybe you grab the outside edges of your feet. But again, keep your back flat, shoulder blades pulled together. And if you can't do this without those things happening, or you can't breathe, back out. Couple more breaths. Paschimottanasana. And Western stretch. Release that, lift up. Your choice here. So you can move to reverse table. Elbows or fingertips are either pointed out to the side or in towards your body for this position. So either plant your feet and lift your hips, or straighten your legs, try to keep your toes planted as you lift up. 5 breaths. Hips nice and high wherever you are. And lower down after 5. Fabulous. So from here, we have either a vinyasa or a bump up between most of our positions. So for this one, we're going to just do a bump up. Grab your blocks, have them on either side of your hips. Place your hands on your blocks. I like to have my fingertips kind of curled over the edge. Start to straighten your arms, press in your blocks, lift your seat, and if you can, lift your feet. And then come right back down. That is called a bump up. So we have to do that in between our sides if we need a little break from our vinyasas. Okay, so straighten both legs. And then bring your right foot up into your right hip crease. If that hurts your knee, then bring your ankle over your knee. Or just above your knee, you don't want to rest right on your knee. You can take a bind if you can grab your big toe with your right hand, or you can just work towards a fold. And flat back, 5 breaths. You're welcome to keep practicing Ujjayi breath if that is part of your practice. One more breath here. And we're going to move towards that bump up to practice it once again. So release, lift up, cross your legs. You could cross them like your lotus or just like an easy seat. Hands on your blocks, press in, lift up, and right back down. Other side. This time, left foot comes into the right hip crease or over your left above your knee. You can take a bind or work for your fold. Flat spine, feet are engaged. Breathe. Okay, so in between our 2 positions, we're going to do a vinyasa. We're going to do the bump up in between the position on the same side. So since we're moving to a new position, we're going to release. We're going to move through vinyasa. So cross your ankles, hands come forward. Legs step back to plank, lower down. Cobra or up dog. Down again. Tuck your toes, push up, downward facing dog, and back to the center. Straighten your legs. So we're going to do something that can be a little intense on the knees, so options here. So the full position would be to bring your right foot outside your right hip. And we're going to do a fold from here. If you're already noticing this is super intense from your knee, grab a block, put it under your bum on just the side of your straight leg. And then you could fold if you wanted to. So we'll just stay here for this one. Ankle outside the hips. Add a fold if that works for your body. We want to make sure not to have any injury or any pain through a knee. If there's any intense pressure or uncomfortable sensation in your knee, please, please, please back out. One more breath. Lovely. Lift up, unwind. And before we move to the other side, we'll do that bump up. So grab your blocks, press your hands down, lift up and back down. And then second side. So this time left foot comes outside the left hip. Remember, you can have that block under your straight legged side and find your fold. You can grab your foot. Sometimes I like to bring my fingertips out to the side like this so that I don't feel like I'm rolling out to one side or the other. Fabulous. One more breath and we're moving through a vinyasa. When you're ready, lift up, cross your ankles. Hands come down, move through vinyasa. Seat. Moving to one of my favorites. This is Janu Shirshasana. So straighten both legs, bend your right knee. Sole of your right foot comes into the hip or the thigh crease, and then get your right knee way back for that 90-degree angle. Left leg is straight in front, turn towards that leg and fold. 5 breaths again. And lift up. Find your blocks. Time for a bump up. This is really building the strength in your arms and your core. It's going to help you a ton when we start getting to arm balances, handstands, things like that. Right foot comes out long, left foot tucks in. Get that knee back for that 90-degree angle. Twist towards your right leg. Reach for your foot or keep your hands on the floor. 5 deep breaths. When you're ready, release. Get ready for your vinyasa. Cross your ankles. Hands come forward. Move on through. Step back to the center. So there's actually 3 versions of Janu Shirshasana. We're going to just do 2 of them today. So for our second version, and if this does not work for your body, do the first one again. But we're actually going to grab our right ankle, reach underneath to grab our toes, turn our toes towards the ground and place them down. And I like to lift up and shift forward after I do that. So this is kind of a funky ankle. If it hurts your knee, your ankle, don't do it. If you can, add your fold. Same 5 breaths. When you're ready, release, lift up, help your foot come out of that position. Grab your blocks for your bump up. Back down. Excellent. Other side. So right leg is long, left foot lifts up, Grab those toes if you can, turn them towards the ground, maybe shift your weight forward, and then add a fold if it works for you. One more breath. Here for vinyasa. When you're ready, release. Help your foot unentangle, and then make your vinyasa, or take a break, or do a bump up. It's really totally up to you. This is your practice. On back through to a seat. Straighten both legs. Bend your right knee, plant your right foot on the ground, but have some space in between your knee and your foot. Sit nice and tall. Couple of options. You might bring your hands together, lean forward, and bring your hands to the ground. If it works for your body, you can work to take a bind here. So do what works for you, as always. It's one of the most important things in our yoga practice is to work with what's good for our own bodies, not what's good for someone around us. They have different injuries, different skills, different bone structures. So it's really important to listen to what's good for you. One more breath. Release and bump up. Then other side. Right leg straight, left foot plants. Have that space and either lean forward or work for your bind. You might be wondering, why in the world are we keep doing these bump ups and these vinyasas? My arms are tired. We're actually trying to keep the heat in our body. So if we just stay in these seated positions, our body tends to get cold. The muscles will start to stiffen up a little bit more. So this is keeping the blood and the heat going, even though we might not always enjoy it. One more breath. And we're getting ready for that vinyasa. Release. Cross your ankles. Move through your vinyasa. Be happy to note in our finishing sequence, we don't have nearly as many of those. Okay, one more of these seated positions before we do a couple of different things. So again, bend your right knee, have that space, and now we're gonna do a nice big twist. So you can either hug your knee or bring your right hand behind you and hook your left elbow. There's also a bind here. You are welcome to take that bind if that works for you. Does not work for me, so I will not be doing that. I'm just gonna enjoy a nice big twist. After your 5 breaths, face comes forward first, rest of your body unwinds, find your blocks, and take your bump up. Right back down. Other side twist. Marichiasana C. Marichi is an ancient sage that this position was named after. So take your twist. Whatever version is going to work for your body. After those 5 breaths, face comes to the front. Unwind. We're going to move through that vinyasa, but we're actually going to actually go ahead and move through your vinyasa, come back to a seat so I can show you what's doing. It's a different kind of arm balance, so it's a little bit harder if you're not used to it. So we will move through our vinyasa, cross your ankles, step your feet back, move through vinyasa. From downward facing dog, I'm going to show you this from the front angle. What you're actually going to do is walk your feet to the outside of your hands. And then you're going to sink your hips nice and low Make sure your hands are fully on the ground. This does not work if only your fingertips are down. Start to walk your feet in front of your hands and cross your ankle. If you can get that, see if you can lift your feet off the ground, even if it's just a tiny little bit. This is Bhuja Pindasana. And once you've had your 5 breaths, lower on down, shake out your wrists. So that is the arm balance that we typically do in our Ashtanga class. You're probably more familiar with crow. You can always do a crow instead if you'd like, but that's our Ashtanga variation. So, okay, go ahead and open your knees nice and wide, but notice my knees are bent, my heels are on the floor, my toes are pointed up. So we're moving towards tortoise, which is also something you might not often do. So start by seeing if you can get your hands to grab your ankles. And this might be where you stop. Great version of a tortoise. If you want more, you can kind of snuggle your arms down and start to walk your arms back. Make sure you don't have too much pressure on your elbows. Your legs should be resting just above your elbows so you don't cause any elbow injuries. You can get your chest down to the ground. Fabulous. Go for it. 2 more breaths. Then walk your arms out. Lift up, straighten both legs, nice wide fold. If you would like to do this so that you have your heels resting on the ground or resting on a mat or a blanket, please do. So from here, fold and see if you can grab your big toes. Keep your shoulder blades pulled together, chest forward. If this does not work, you're welcome to put your hands on the ground and fold. And take a look at what we're going to do next. So, and again, if this doesn't work for you, totally fine. But while you're here, what we're going to do next is we're going to find a floating variation of this. We're going to roll either to our back body or to a wide-legged halasana. Roll back up. And if you have blankets under your legs, or you've done this before, we're going to press through our heels so the calves land down first. So let's give that a try. So if you're still in your wide-legged fold, you might bend your knees and then see if you can float. Same position, or just lift it up. From here, you can stay to rolling just on your back body, or you can move all the way back to that wide-legged plow position, whatever works for you. Couple of breaths wherever you are. Roll forward, find your balance, press through your heels, and if you have soft landing or are used to this, come on down. Wonderful. Cross your ankles and come back to the center. Take a moment to readjust. Nice big breath. Exhale it out. Do things slightly out of order for our short form version. So while we're sitting, actually, let's first do our Baddha Konasana because you gotta have a Baddha Konasana class. So feet together, knees wide, tall spine. Find a fold if you would like. So we're gonna come down to our back body for a couple of positions. And then it's pretty much going to be time for our final rest. You might wish to have a strap if it's difficult for you to grab your big toe while laying on your back body. One more breath here. Stay here as you exhale it out. And then lift back up. And we'll practice lotus before we come to our back body. So right foot comes to left hip crease, left foot comes on top, moving towards the right hip crease. You're welcome to take a bind. You're welcome to work on any other version or just stay here for 5 breaths and practice your lotus. Padmasana. Wonderful. Go ahead and release from that. Be happy to know we are done with our vinyasas. So come on back to your back body. You might have your strap nearby. If you need anything for your final rest, warm clothing, a blanket, go ahead and grab that as well. Lower on down to your back body. Straighten both legs. Let your arms come out to the side. Take a nice full breath in and let it out. Bring your ankles together, bend your right knee, grab your right big toe, straighten your leg as you lift head and shoulders off of the ground. Left hand can come to your left hip to help it stay grounded. 5 breaths here, just like our other positions. And after 5 breaths, head and shoulders come down and your right leg will open out to the right. You might look over your left shoulder. If you happen to have a wall, feel free to use it. Notice that your left toes are so pulled back towards your face while you're doing this. So your both feet are engaged the entire time. 2 more breaths. As much as you can, keep your right leg straight as you bring it back to center, and either grab the outer edge of your feet with both hands and straighten your legs, or if that does not work, grab outside your thigh and straighten your leg. Excellent. Lower that down. Other side. Left knee bends, grab your big toe. Head and shoulders lift as you come on up. 5 short breaths. Both feet are engaged. And then head and shoulders come down. As your left leg opens to the left, you might look over your right shoulder. Again, keep your legs straight as much as you can as you bring it back to the center. Grab the outer edge of your foot with both hands or interlace your hands behind your thigh. And then bend your knee. Lower your foot to the floor, both knees bent, feet close to your hips. We're going to combine a couple of things. So typically we do a couple rounds of bridge or wheel and then work on some inversions. Since we have a short form time, we're actually going to combine these to do a supported bridge and or legs up the wall for our inversions. So grab your block, press your elbows into the floor, lift your shoulder blades, snuggle them together, press into your feet, slide that block under your sacrum, find a supported bridge. So supported bridge itself is an inversion. You could stay right here. If you would like more or more of an inversion, or it just feels good in your body, feel free to lift up your feet and find a legs up the wall variation. Typically in a full Ashtanga class, you would have some headstands, shoulder stands, maybe even some handstands. We're not going to do all of that today, although it's your own practice if you're at home. So you're welcome to do whatever works for you. Take 5 more breaths in our inversion. You're letting everything slow down. letting our circulatory, our lymph, our breath all work differently for these inversions. It's so good for our body. When you're ready, if your feet are lifted, bend one knee at a time and bring it back to the floor. Press into your feet to lift your hips, slide the block off to the side. You might give yourself one more little hug. And make your way towards your final resting position. This could be a traditional Shavasana, feet a little bit wider, arms out to the side, palms face up. You're also welcome to do anything else that's comfortable for you for a final rest. So notice how your body is feeling after movement. Notice anything else that's taking place, emotions, thoughts, other sensations. And let all of that drift away. Your body and mind take rest. Shavasana. Begin to deepen your breath. Gently bring awareness back into your body. Begin to wiggle fingers and toes or circle wrists and ankles. Bend your knees, your right arm overhead, and roll onto your right side body. Pause here and take a couple of breaths as you transition back. When you're ready, press your way up towards any comfortable seat. Your palms together, thumb rests at heart for Anjali Mudra. Gratitude that you chose to be here today, doing something good for your mind and body. Gratitude to all of our teachers that have passed this tradition down through the generations. So glad to have you with us and hope to see you again. We'll close our practice by bringing our thumbs to our forehead and bowing. The light in me bows to and honors the light in each of you. Thank you.